This year, Brazil is hosting G20, and India actually handed that gavel to the Brazil.
Yeah.
So, how does these delegations who are going to Brazil impacted both the countries' bilateral relations?
I think let me start by saying that you had a very historic G20 chairmanship. I don't know if you're aware, Brazil's cattle came from India. Portuguese colonized Goa and colonized Brazil, and they brought Indian spices to Brazil.
You like Indian spices?
I like Indian spices, but I have to get used to that little by little because it's a bit strong for me.
And what kind of challenges you faced when you came to India?
My challenge is
Open, be very open to that challenges.
Yes.
Like living in India, eating Indian foods or whatever.
No, for some the challenge is heat, it's the language. For me, the challenge is the spicy food. I have to get used to that.
आपको हिंदी सीखते हुए 6 महीने हो गए एंड वी हैव हर्ड दैट यू आर एक्चुअली लर्निंग हिंदी फ्रॉम लास्ट 6 मंथ्स. तो क्या क्या सीखा है हिंदी में आपने अब तक?
मैं 6 महीने से हिंदी सीख रहा हूँ. बहुत काम के साल सीख मुश्किल है, लेकिन फिर भी मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ.
कोशिश दिख रही है. तो और आपने बताया कि भारत के मसालों का जो संबंध है ब्राज़ील से वो बहुत पुराना है. तो भारत का कौन सा खाना आपको बहुत पसंद है?
I like your bread. Yes, you like your bread.
रोटी गोल वाली.
Yeah. Yes. I like your bread. I like your dal, your lentils. I like your butter chicken.
Oh.
The question is that sometimes it's a bit spicy for me, so I try to eat less spicy versions.
Okay.
Yes, but I like the way you prepare mutton. So it's the food is delicious. The question is the chili. I have to get used to the chili.
मिर्ची ज़्यादा तीखी है यहाँ की.
Yes.
अच्छा, आप हिंदी गाने सुनते हैं, हिंदी फिल्में देखते हैं?
Mother India, Lapata Ladies.
ओ लापता लेडीज देखी
Yes,
आपने?
I've seen. Yes.
कैसा लगा?
RRR.
RRR भी.
Yes. Yes.
एंड व्हाट अबाउट हैव यू एक्सप्लोर्ड इंडियन सिटीज़? क्या आप भारत के शहरों में घूमे हैं? कहाँ कहाँ गए हैं? क्या क्या देखा है?
मैंने आई ट्राई इन हिंदी.
हाँ.
मैंने बहुत शहरों का दौरा किया है. जैसे वाराणसी, जयपुर, लखनऊ, कोची, गोवा वगैरह. Yes. मेरे लिए जयपुर और वाराणसी दिलचस्प शहर हैं.
नमस्कार. भारत और ब्राज़ील बहुत अच्छे दोस्त रहे हैं और यही वजह है कि जब जब हम भारत के दोस्तों की बात करते हैं तो उसमें ब्राज़ील का नाम भी शामिल हो जाता है. तो आज भारत और ब्राज़ील के रिश्तों को लेकर हम बात कर रहे हैं ब्राज़ील के एम्बेसडर से. सर, हेलो एंड वेलकम.
Yeah, welcome. Good morning.
How you are feeling in Delhi? It's hot or not?
Oh, I'm from Rio, meaning that in summer in Rio the temperature can climb up to 41, 42. So it's not a shock for me this hot climate these days in Delhi.
So we are here to talk about the diplomatic relation between India and Brazil. So let's start with the history of both the countries, how it all started and how is it doing.
Well, Brazil and India, as you know, last year celebrated 75 years of diplomatic relations. And throughout these 7 decades, we have coordinated consistently in international fora, meaning the United Nations, WTO, World Health Organization. And we also defended common positions on climate, on trade, based on the idea that we should have position in these multilateral fora, which are commensurate to our importance as countries.
So, what is the current state of strategic partnership between India and Brazil, and what are the key areas where both the countries can collaborate and move together?
Well, as you know, President Lula and Prime Minister Modi met on the sidelines of the G20 summit here in Delhi last year, and they really re-energized our strategic partnership. So in our joint statement, which was issued after the meeting, it clearly says we are going to build on our traditional political relations, diplomatic relations, but now these relations should expand to encompass trade, investment, technology, etc. So there is a clear instructions from our leaders to boost our relations to new areas.
So my next question will be related to bilateral relations. So this year Brazil is hosting G20, and India actually handed that gavel to the Brazil.
Yeah.
So how does these delegations who are going to Brazil impacted both the countries' bilateral relations?
I think let me start by saying that you had a very historic G20 chairmanship, because you managed at least many things, but at least three very basic and important historic achievements, which was to consolidate on the agenda of the G20 the Global South interests. You managed to produce a joint statement against a very complex geopolitical background. You managed to include a paragraph on the war in Ukraine. And third, you managed also to include the African Union as a new full member of the G20. These are really historic achievements. And Brazilian presidency, to a considerable extent, is a continuation of the Indian chairmanship. Of course, we are putting emphasis on fighting hunger and poverty, and also on environmental issues. So I think the G20 presidency, Indian and now followed by Brazilians, only contributed to increase even more the trust which characterizes our bonds, you see.
So what is going to be the main key highlight for when Brazil is hosting that G20?
I think the basic, as I mentioned, our priorities are fighting hunger and poverty. President Lula has a very significant life experience of fighting poverty and fighting hunger. He comes from a disadvantage. He had a disadvantaged childhood. He fought his way through. He became president. When he was elected president, he introduced a number of social programs that lifted millions of people in Brazil from poverty. So in his third term now, he wants to re-energize these policies. And this is why we have this priority in the G20 presidency, because also it should be a priority of a number of global South countries too. And the second thing is putting emphasis on climate change and environment. So Brazil has organized two task forces in its presidency, one to fight hunger and poverty, and the other to fight climate change. So the idea is not to create new structures, new bureaucracy in the G20. The idea is to try to, in the context of the task force, bring together the elements in order to have tangible results on the ground. We want a result-oriented presidency, you see.
When you talk about India and Brazil relation, there is a trade, and we have seen the trade is boosting every financial year. Actually, it is boosting. So, how do you look when India is actually rising in terms of economy and global power, and the trade is also increasing with Brazil?
Yes, I should say, and I have the figures are very clear. Our trade and investment relations have been booming as never before in the whole history, throughout the whole history of our bilateral relations. To give you an idea, in 9 months, I have received 22 business missions from Brazil, and over a dozen Indian missions visited Brazil. And with more to come, we had the visit of 3 state governors from Brazil in these last 8 months. Brazil is a federation of states, and we are going to receive, I think, to receive the visit of 2 more in the coming months. So I think the numbers speak for themselves, and also our bilateral relations reached 14 billion in 2022, which was a record. And what we are working on is to diversify our economic relations.
So, are there any agreements or MOUs that are in pipeline and we can see in upcoming months?
Well, what we can expect in the coming months is more business being done. For example, we had in last November MOU between private sectors, private companies from Brazil and from India to help increase the productivity of milk in the state of Uttar Pradesh, for example. So it's we concluded 3 memorandum of understanding, one related to cattle feed, the other to genetic material, and the third cattle managing. Because I don't know if you're aware, Brazil's cattle came from India. And so we have this in common in terms of cooperation to boost our cooperation.
Can you elaborate this point that Brazil cattle came from India?
Yes, more or less 100 years ago, we started receiving Gir cattle, Nellore cattle from Gujarat. And in Brazil, this cattle really could found an environment which was an arid environment, which is comparable to India, hot, arid environment. And Brazil, with the help of genetic engineering and also throughout practice, managed to increase the productivity of this cattle, milk productivity of this cattle. So these results we achieved in Brazil, we'd like to share with India.
So, talking about the cultural exchange, how Brazil and India are going to strengthen their cultural exchange, and are there any upcoming cultural events or festivals about which you are particularly excited?
Well, Brazil has had this year we received from Brazil this year Brazilian artists that participated in that puppet festival. We had also a Brazilian artist participating in this street art festival. We had also the participation of Brazilian chefs in a number of events here in Delhi. Chief of all, an event I promoted here in the embassy with a world-renowned chef, Morena Leite, which came directly from Brazil, where she prepared the dinner for President Macron during his visit to Brazil. So she came here straight from that, and she promoted here a gastronomic event. So for the next semester, we are planning other gastronomic events. You know, there are connections between our gastronomy and the Indian gastronomy because of the spices. The Portuguese colonized Goa and colonized Brazil, and they brought Indian spices to Brazil. So we have this connection. I want to promote this connection, you see.
So you like Indian spices?
I like Indian spices, but I have to get used to that little by little because it's a bit strong for me.
So when we talk about India and Brazil relation, so students, apart from trade and investment, students are the key players. So is there any student exchange program so that students can go there, or Brazilian students can come to India for their higher studies or so?
No, at present we don't have. I think that this is something you should do. We should introduce some initiatives or agreements in order to boost exchange of students from Brazil to India, from India to Brazil. This is something that we have still to do.
And what about tourism? How Brazil is promoting tourism in India, and both the countries actually are promoting tourism?
Well, you know, Brazil has the Amazon rainforest, the central Brazil wetlands, the Brazilian Rio beaches, northeast beaches, and you have these architecture marvels you have here from your civilization, and also all these natural beauties and very diversified here also. What we have to do is to promote more exchange, because tourism from Brazil to India and from India to Brazil is still very in the small numbers. That's the fact. We are trying to promote that. We received last month a big mission of tourist operators from Brazil who came to talk to tourism operators from India to see if we can boost that tourism. But I dream about having a direct flight from Delhi to São Paulo or from Mumbai to São Paulo. Yeah. We are working on that. Let's see if it will become a reality.
And coming to the next question, India and Brazil share many international platforms like G20, BRICS, and many more. So how do you see that? You know, both the countries are on the same page, when we talk about IPSA or collaboration with South Africa, Brazil, and India. Right. So they are actually sharing a number of platforms.
Yes, I think that, as I mentioned at the outset, we have a long tradition of coordination in many fora, including BRICS, IPSA, BASIC, G4, because we have so much in common in terms of values and interests. For example, in the BASIC, which is linked to the climate change negotiations, Brazil and India stand for climate justice, stand for the real implementation of the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, meaning that each country has to assume its responsibility, historic and economic, in order to help fight climate change and help developing countries to fight climate change and to adapt to climate change. So we have, for example, this very fundamental common values and outlooks. In IPSA, it's the forum of the three of the largest democracies of the global south, because Indonesia is also a very large democracy. It's not in IPSA, but three of the largest. So we have a lot to talk to each other in terms of how we fight the challenges of developing our countries. We are developing countries, but it's a talk among democracies, how democracies can manage to develop. This is another example. In BRICS, Brazil and India, they are there to act as a bridge to a large extent. I don't want to speak for India, but speaking for Brazil, Brazil sees BRICS as a very important group where a diversified number of countries come together to share their ideas, to talk to each other, not necessarily agree on everything, but I think that Brazil, and I think India, but I want to speak for Brazil. Brazil wants to be a bridge between BRICS countries and Western countries, because we don't see BRICS as something confronting the Western countries. We see BRICS as a group that which has common interests and one wants to connect with other group of countries.
So we have news regarding like many countries are actually they want to join BRICS, like Turkey proposed, Bangladesh proposed, and more than 90 countries are actually participating in BRICS. And you have worked in BRICS for Brazil especially. So how do you see that if this year Russia is hosting BRICS? Yeah. What kind of impact it would create?
I think the very fact that a large number of countries want to become member of BRICS speaks for itself, meaning that these countries see BRICS as a platform where they can make their voices heard, they can engage in meaningful discussions in a world context where the multilateral fora are blocked. So countries want to engage in diplomacy, in dialogue, and so they see in BRICS a platform of dialogue. Not meaning that we are going to agree on everything, but it's a consensus-based group also. We respect the positions of each member. This was one of the main challenges when I was working for BRICS, because we had to hammer out these agreements in order to issue those statements. And this was quite challenging sometimes. But you see, the prevailing spirit of consensus, of respecting each other's positions, always prevailed. And I trust that this will prevail within an enlarged BRICS.
And we actually am looking forward towards BRICS because this year it is going to be more important when we see a number of countries are actually interested in joining BRICS. So coming back to India and Brazil relation, so how do you remember COVID-19 cooperation between Brazil and India? It is regarding healthcare and vaccines.
Well, I think that first, India was one of the very few countries that in a very early stage managed to develop and produce vaccines. India showed really solidarity to Brazil. We received a large amount of vaccines at the peak of the pandemics. So we are very grateful to India because this is what friends do in hard times. This was really something which you will always remember.
But there is a very contradiction regarding healthcare products and vaccinations in Brazil itself.
Yes, the previous government was not, to put it mildly, very positive at the outset about launching a campaign, vaccination campaign. But you see, Brazil is a federation, a democracy, a federation of states. What happened is that one major federal state of Brazil, São Paulo, in fact the richest state of Brazil, launched its campaign, and then the federal government had no other option but also to launch its campaign. So this is democracy working, you see. Central government was kind of reluctant, and then one federal state after the other launched their state campaigns, and then
it went.
Yes.
And when you see the current geopolitical landscape, what kind of role Brazil and India are playing? How do you see that?
Well, I think India has a very special geopolitical role to play because it's now the fifth economy, an important geopolitical actor, and has been showing really very responsibility in playing its role, which is a big role India has now to play. Brazil geographic position is far from those big hotspots place of the world. We have been conducting a diplomacy which is a very traditional diplomacy of sticking to multilateralism and international law as the basis for civilized relations between the countries. Brazil has a history of negotiating peacefully all its borders with all its neighbors. We have lots of neighbors in South America, and all our borders were negotiated peacefully with each one of them. So we have this tradition.
And what kind of challenges Brazil and India are facing in their bilateral relation? Is there any problem or sort of any challenge where both the countries are not agreeing on the same page?
We mostly agree on everything. What we have is in the trade policy area, we have some different views regarding agricultural rules in the WTO, but it has not prevented us from understanding that friends cannot agree, close friends cannot agree on everything. So we framed the differences that we have in the WTO as within this larger context of a very traditional friendship, you see, with many common interests. This is the way we decided to manage that.
Recently, you visited a defense college of Indian forces.
Yeah.
So, are we going to see any increased cooperation regarding security and defense between Brazil and India?
Well, we cannot talk so openly about what's going on in our defense relations. But what I can tell you is that we have Brazilian officers here studying in your defense college, which is a very well-known one. And we have, Brazil and India have defense industries that are much technologically advanced. And you have been having a number of missions from Brazil to India and from India to Brazil in the last 3 years, and in order to find synergies between our industrial defense sector industries. Last month, we organized here in Delhi a Defense Week, where we had, in 5 days, we had a dialogue between our defense sectors, industrial defense sectors. We had discussions in 2 think tanks, and then we had the first edition of our so-called 2+2 defense dialogue. On each side, a representative from Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Defense. So it was a first. So, as you say, wherever you see, relations are really booming.
So, is Brazil interested in any of the indigenous, weapon or fighter jet developed in India?
Well, I will refrain from entering into details because these are
not into the details, but is Brazil looking towards Indian products, Indian defense products?
Yes. We have been really. We are interested in a number of defense products.
If you can name, I just don't want to get into the details. I just want to know in which sector. Is it a fighter jet or weapon system or what kind of it? If you can.
I think that what I can say that it's a very diversified interest. Excuse me, but
yeah.
I think I should be prudent.
Okay. So tell me, it's been almost 5 or 6 years you are in India?
No, I have been here for 10 months.
10 months?
Yes, I have been to India before.
Okay, in 2018?
No, in 13, 16, 17, 18, and not as ambassador. Okay. As a Brazilian diplomat on missions here.
On mission.
Yes.
So
official tourism too.
Yeah. And now 10 months as ambassador.
Yes.
You were in India.
Yes.
How is India?
Well, when I applied for this position, I already know the country, and the very fact that I applied for this position means a lot, right? I was not sent. Well, I was sent by the president, of course, but I applied for this position. You see,
and
I love the cultural aspect also of this country. I have been. This is why I have been studying Hindi. It's not easy. I've been visiting archaeological sites. I love the cultural heritage you have here, and also have lots to do in terms of business.
And what kind of challenges you faced when you came to India?
My challenge is
be very open to that challenges.
Yes.
Like living in India, eating Indian foods or whatever.
No, for some the challenge is heat. It's the language. For me, the challenge is the spicy food. I have to get used to that. But I'm making progress. I'm making progress.
Okay. So, what kind of relationship you want to see, and what is your vision regarding Brazil and India relation? Do you want something to be improved or something to be replaced?
Yes, I think my mission here is to build to build on the very significant diplomatic relations we have had in the last 70 years. This is clear. But what I want also to boost here is our trade and investment relations based on 3 pillars, which is defense, agriculture, and energy. We have been reaping some concrete results already. There have been a number of announcements of Indian investments in Brazil and some Brazilian investments in India. So things are happening. Concrete, tangible results are already being reaped. But I think there is a lot to do.
How many Brazilian projects are actually right now currently going inside India? How many projects are actually running?
Sorry, I didn't
How many Brazilian projects are running in India right now?
Well, we have, for example, WEG, which is a large Brazilian company with traditional with investments in Tamil Nadu, focusing on electric motors, but as of late decided to move also to the wind turbines area, because it's the major wind turbines producer in Brazil. We have had last month in Gujarat a Brazilian company named Paquin opening a production unit of so-called plastic containers with the Indian partner. I think it's an investment of some $58 million, I'm not sure, around $58 million with an Indian partner. It's not a producer of plastic bags, plastic containers. It's something big. So these are two examples. I have already mentioned this memorandum of understanding concluding the sphere agriculture area regarding milk productivity. So these are some the examples I can think of at this point in time. But there are other examples.
So let's come to the main part, that is Hindi. So आपको हिंदी सीखते हुए 6 महीने हो गए, and we have heard that you are actually learning Hindi from last 6 months. तो क्या क्या सीखा है हिंदी में आपने अब तक?
मैं 6 महीने से हिंदी सीख रहा हूँ. बहुत काम के साल सीख मुश्किल है, लेकिन फिर भी मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ.
कोशिश दिख रही है. तो क्योंकि भारत की बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग, तो भारत का खाना, और आपने बताया कि भारत के मसालों का जो संबंध है ब्राज़ील से वो बहुत पुराना है, तो भारत का कौन सा खाना आपको बहुत पसंद है?
I don't know if I understood your question, but
it is about which Indian food you like. हिंदी में.
I like your bread.
Bread.
Yes, you like your bread.
रोटी गोल वाली.
Yeah. Yes. I like your bread. I like your dal, your lentils. I like your butter chicken.
Oh.
The question is that sometimes it's a bit spicy for me, so I try to eat less spicy versions.
Okay.
Yes, but I like the way you prepare mutton. So it's the food is delicious. The question is the chili. I have to get used to the chili.
मिर्ची ज़्यादा तीखी है यहाँ की.
Yes.
अच्छा, आप हिंदी गाने सुनते हैं, हिंदी फिल्में देखते हैं?
हाँ. Mother India, Lapata Ladies.
Oh, लापता लेडीज देखी
Yes,
आपने?
I've seen. Yes.
कैसा लगा?
RRR.
RRR भी?
Yes. वगैरह.
वगैरह. लापता लेडीज में क्या अच्छा लगा? रवि किशन?
Yes.
रवि किशन की एक्टिंग अच्छी लगी आपको?
Yeah.
लापता लेडीज में एक पुलिस वाला है. The policeman in the लापता ladies. There is a policeman in that लापता ladies.
Yes.
What do you say about that policeman?
No, I think that is the guy who the character evolves in the sense of to an ethic behavior. You know, he's in an environment where you have also the possibility of getting corrupt, but I think his soul spoke.
At the end.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah. And what about, have you explored Indian cities? क्या आप भारत के शहरों में घूमे हैं? कहाँ गए हैं? क्या क्या देखा है?
मैंने I try in हिंदी.
हाँ.
मैंने बहुत शहरों का दौरा किया है. जैसे वाराणसी, जयपुर, लखनऊ, कोची, गोवा वगैरह. Yes. मेरे लिए जयपुर और वाराणसी दिलचस्प शहर हैं.
क्या आप कभी कश्मीर गए हैं?
नहीं.
कभी जाना चाहेंगे?
हाँ.
कहते हैं धरती का जन्नत है कश्मीर.
This one I didn't understand.
Kashmir is, Switzerland of India, heaven on the earth, that is Kashmir.
Yes.
Very beautiful.
Yes, I'm looking forward to visiting Kashmir. I have not had the time, but I will travel to Kashmir.
हिंदी में सबसे ज़्यादा मुश्किल क्या है? हिंदी सीखने में सबसे ज़्यादा मुश्किल कहाँ आती है?
हिंदी सीखना मुश्किल है
जो
But I'm trying my best.
कितने घंटे कितनी कोशिश करते हैं रोज आप हिंदी बोलने की? कितनी देर आप हिंदी का अभ्यास करते हैं?
The effort. I have twice a week Hindi lessons. I don't have much the time to do this.
Okay.
But I'm trying to learn Hindi the proper way. I'm learning the alphabet, the sounds. I have mentioning to you in Hindi you have 4 T's. You have T, 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 T. In Portuguese, my mother language, you have just 1 T, and this is the 5th one. It's not any one of these 4.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn the proper way in order to speak the proper way. So I expect to reap results, concrete results, in order to be able to engage in a conversation in Hindi in the medium term, not immediately, but I prefer like that because then I can learn in depth the language, which interests me.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने समय दिया और इतनी अच्छी हिंदी बोली, मतलब ये तारीफ़ के काबिल है और आपकी हिंदी वाकई में अब और अच्छी होती जा रही है, ये मैं तो कह सकता हूँ सुनकर। और जो लोग हमें देख रहे हैं, जो लोग हमें सुन रहे हैं, वो भी आपकी हिंदी की खूब तारीफ़ करने वाले हैं।
Okay, I didn't get what you said, but more or less I get what you said, in the sense that we are going back to talk about this later.
और जब आप अच्छे से हिंदी सीख लेंगे तो हम लोग अगला इंटरव्यू पूरा हिंदी में करेंगे।
Okay, no, this is a challenge, but let's do this. Let's try. Let's aim for that.
Thank you so much for giving us time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming here.